You are listening to the audiobook Veilshatter, Legends of Elyndar, now available on Amazon, Audible, and wherever books are sold. Featuring our three unforgettable heroes, an epic adventure begins.
The storm's memory. The gale's teeth were turned, sharp and relentless, as Veyran descended the spiral of rain-slick stone. Wind hammered through the openwork windows, hurling needles of stinging cloud against his skin, until even the calluses on his palms prickled. Each step ground weariness deeper into his bones, every movement a trial. The bickering voices of the sky ring faded, replaced by the city's hush, a lull before Windrest's next reckoning. Halfway down, the sky split once more. Unnatural this time, nothing born of the seasonal tempests Uthira's folk had courted for centuries. A muffled groan echoed through the city's girders and sky bridges, as if Windrest itself remembered trauma. Veyran pressed his shaking hands against the cold stone balustrade and looked up. Clouds coiled and bulged like bruises, trailing streamers of blackened rain over spires and rooftops, over the busy warren of wind-vine courtyards and sky-glass chapels below. Lightning flickered. Not the dazzling white threads he'd shaped since boyhood, but a sickly blue, running through the air as if the world's veins had turned to wizardry. The hairs along Veyran's arms bristled. He recognized it immediately. Memory storm. A half-recalled warning from Zephrison spun through his thoughts, a storm that strikes at the mind as keenly as stone or steel. The cost of weather twisted by fear. He felt its pull, subtle at first, like old scars aching before rain. Then, as the next boom shook Windrest towers, the memories erupted. Blood and broken sky. Chaos at the archipelago's edge. He stood again on Ashen Bridge. Years vanished in a blink, reliving the night he had failed to mend the wards. His younger self's hands, sure unmarred but futile, pressed desperate sigils into melting stonework as wild magic crashed in from the rimlands. Screaming wind, the sour taste of panic, the sharp cry of a friend lost as the sky caved open and swallowed voices and hope. He tried to stagger back, but the city spun beneath his feet. Vision blurred. He was in three places at once. The memory storm tore at the seams of now, setting old shame loose. He saw himself kneeling, too late at the side of Malin Crest, rain pooling beneath silver hair as lifeblood drained into it, a sacrifice that should have been his own. Heard again the sky ring's verdict. Silent men and women turned away as he begged to shoulder blame. Guilt twisted through him, raw as when it was forged. He staggered, colliding with a sigil brazier. Flames sputtered, guttered, spat blue sparks which seemed to leap up and hang frozen in the crackling air. Someone shouted, but the voice wavered, distant. All around, stormlight intensified, rain screaming sideways, every drop scrawling secret marks in the air. Not here, not now. Veyran gritted his teeth and reached for the discipline in his marrow, the ancient techniques drilled into every weatherbinder. Lock the inner gates, vision narrowed, name the fear. All his training, once a shelter, now buckled beneath the memories the storm laid bare. No rod in his hand. He dropped it on the stair, power exhausted, sigil stones flickering out. His own strength was failing. In the swirling chaos, he glimpsed Zephrison, shape fluid, a streak of emerald and gold threading briefly through the vortex. Not wholly formed, not real in flesh, but presence enough. The storm spirit's voice pulsed within his head. Bind the wound or be consumed. Remember who you are, Veyran Octelos. Storms pass. The cost remains. He pressed a trembling palm against his heart, the other against the stone ledge, drawing slow, deep breaths. Old incantations rattled on his tongue. Yoturnos Haral, sky's edge close, memory's gate. Shut. The words, dangerous, nearly forbidden, sparked against the inside of his skull. Word-binding, tied as much to will as to the ancient tongue, strained raw and wild on his lips. For a moment, the storm pressed back, yielding just enough. Clarity seared through. The memory storm's vision fractured, losing purchase. But the effort shredded him, muscles screaming, brain dimming behind the silver arc of a migraine. Shadows darted at the corners of his vision. Malin's face again, accusing and gentle at once. His father's frown, the late regret of counselors now long dead. Every loss a stone weighted in his soul. Windrest folk below scattered, shapes shrinking beneath awnings, light dome umbrellas, whatever guttered shelter the market tiles still offered. The city's protective inscriptions flickered, 100 runes failing all at once. Somewhere, a sea bell clanged in warning. Somewhere else, the shriek of a child nearly drowned out the thunder's teeth. Veyran forced his battered will to reach for the world. He shaped a weather pattern with his hands, fingers sketching the lines of the triple whirl. A child's ritual, but all he could manage. Hovering at the edge of collapse, he poured what shreds of power his body still held into it, grounding the spell through the ancient sigil carved at the stair's foot. The runes drank it hungrily, sparking a weak shield, shimmering over the plaza like a rippling veil. The memory storm bucked, guttered, then screamed defiance, clawing at the wards. Veyran screamed too, wordless, agony tearing through his skull. For a heartbeat, consciousness split. He lived every pain, every fracture, in an instant. Malin's funeral, Arun's disdain, his mother's last song, echoing in the place only grief could reach. The sky above bent near to breaking, clouds warping into the faces of those he had lost. He fell, knees striking quartz hard enough to numb the ache for a fraction of a second. Rain matted his hair to his scalp. Lightning flashed, white gold, etched the memory of Zephyrson's true form, wings unfurled, a titan of wild wind, before the spirit vanished. Nothing but sensation and longing left behind. No more, he whispered, half choke, half plea, no more. Windrest's towers, the city he had sworn to protect, flickered on the edge of destruction and relief. His efforts, taxed beyond reason, finally slowed the ragged edge of the memory storm. He felt it quiet, as though the weather itself, pitying his exhaustion, chose to abate. Bit by bit, the wind unhooked its claws from the stones. The rain slowed, turned to a whisper threading through silent eaves. He blinked rain from his eyes, tasted the salt of both storm and tears. The world returned piecemeal, the scream of the warning bell, the shuffling feet of council patrols, the terrified hush that always follows a city's brush with ruin. Windrest had survived, but at the cost of its champion's strength. He had spent everything. Even breathing scraped the insides of his chest raw. He hauled himself upright, hands shaking as he scavenged for his rod. It lay askew behind the sigil brazier, runestone dim, barely humming. He pressed his thumb to the sigil for clarity, trying to re-anchor himself, but the magic sputtered, useless for now. Runecraft, formally inscribed, patient and subtle, was beyond him. All that remained was the raw ache of effort overspent, and the memory storm's hunger nipping at the edge of his mind. Footsteps pounded the stair. A pair of patrols in sky silver and storm blue rushed to his side, faces sharp with guilt. Aye, and with fear. Not fear of the storm, not now, but of the man who had stilled it. Arctelos, gasped the first, a young woman whose name he could not grab from the haze. Are you? He cut her off with a wave, exhaustion scraping even the gesture thin. The worst has passed. Tend the wards, call the menders, keep the folk together. She nodded, grabbed her companion's arm, and they ran, voices urgent as they vanished toward the lower city. Below, the people of Windrest, skyfolk, gutter mages, stray merchants from Maruna, even a scattered cluster of visiting elixircraft alchemists, emerged like hermit crabs after a tide recedes, peering up at the terraces warily. He wished he could offer comfort. All he could do was slump against the rail, watching torchlight flicker and gutter as new gusts teased the flames. The memory storm left its signature. Runes limned in wrong hues, silvery after-images dancing, faces glimpsed in the glimmer and lost. Spells would take days to repair, some never. He knew what it meant. Windrest's defenses were fragile, the city's trust even more so. "You still stand," Zephyrin murmured, voice a whisper through the wind at his ear. "Barely," he answered, aloud this time, uncaring who heard. The presence was a balm and a thorn, a love impossible to proclaim, a promise only half held. Zephrazin's laughter was mournful. "That storm was not born of my kin. Its source comes closer, closer than you dream. You did not cause this, but you have tasted its nature. And it has tasted you." Veyran closed his eyes tight, willing tremors to still. "Then we have less time than I believed." "Yes, there will be more. You must go, before the city chooses whom to blame. Avestra's peril grows." Veyran stared at Windrest, rain-whipped and radiant in pain. All his life he had wandered these bridges, learnt to fly the wind ropes, sung with the skyfolk as a child. They would not forgive him twice for stepping beyond the oath, not after tonight. But exile meant hope, a chance to help elsewhere, to be more than the sum of his failures. He straightened, feeling the cost of magic spent, limbs heavy, a shiver under his skin that would not ebb. No sorcery, not even the oldest runes, could restore him quickly. Days, perhaps weeks, before power would return in full. Until then, he would walk the road as any other soul, alone, exhausted, uncertain, but still defiant. He set off into the hush that followed storm, each step drawing him nearer a new fate. The city's bells tolled again, slower now, echoing into corridors lit faintly with salt fire and moon water, a city remembering what it nearly lost, in whom it would learn to fear. He moved through familiar passages, knowing soon the gates would close against him. Already the storm's memory curled in his wake, a thread he could never quite cut free. Out in the cloud-bright east, a shadow moved, perhaps just cloud, perhaps augury. Behind that veil, Windrest's future reeled on the brink. Whatever waited outside the archipelago, Veyran would face it. For those he'd failed, for those not yet lost, and for the ones he loved, no matter the cost needed to break the storm's old pattern. As he reached the foot of the last stair, thunder rumbled in the distance, its voice no longer a threat, but a promise. The past had claimed its due, but the road ahead was not yet written. Darkness, flickering with the first hopeful edge of dawn, parted before him. Veyran stepped forward, hollowed and hardened, feeling the storm's memory settle behind his eyes, and knowing, in the hush, that sacrifice would be the only bridge into what came next.